Since the first season, a lot of minor and likable characters have died to move the story along. It soon became a standard to kill off the good, bad, and morally ambiguous characters whenever they could. Even though not every death on Stranger Things has a big effect on fans, there have been a few in the last 4 seasons that have really hurt them. Even the bad guy's death was seen sad, just like Billy's. Eddie and Bob didn't deserve to die, but they did, and their deaths really made fans cry. First, Dr. Brenner and Billy Hargrove. Dr. Brenner was one of the main guys in season 1, and at the end of that season, he was thought to have been eaten by a Demogorgon. But it turns out that he wasn't really dead. He came back in season 4 to help Elle get her powers back after she lost them in season 3. Unfortunately, Dr. Brenner seems to have died for real this time when the US government shoots him several times as he and Elle try to escape the lab. Some fans were sad about Dr. Brenner's death because he spent his moments pleading with Elle to understand and forgive him for what he had done. Billy had to be one of the best character arcs in Stranger Things, and his sad death in season 3 is still one of the things that diehard fans argue about the most. Billy was first seen in season 2 as Max's racist and verbally abusive stepbrother. In season 3, when the Mind Flayer used him as a host, he became a full-fledged bad guy. Billy is a literal and figurative monster for most of the show, but in the end, he gave his life to protect Elle, who has been the first person to be kind to him since his mother died. Some people think Billy should have died, and other fans think that his death as a sacrifice was enough to redeem him, which is sad because he could have been so much better. Next, Dart and Agent Harmon. Dustin makes the questionable choice to keep and raise a baby demo dog in season 2. Dustin calls the creature Dartagan, or Dart, but he doesn't know what kind of animal it is for a while. Later, when Dart shed his skin and ate the cat, there was no doubt. Dart eventually gets away into the Mind Flayer's tunnels, but Eleven closing the gate gives him a chance to change his ways. Steve and the kids are running away through the tunnels when they run into Dart. Dustin gets Dart to stop and let them pass by giving him a Three Musketeers bar and reminding him of their connection. Even though everyone is happy and the gate is closed, there is a sad note as the camera moves over Dart's body lying on the ground with the Musketeers wrapper nearby. After Eleven is selected for the Nina Project, Owens assigns Agent Harmon the responsibility of ensuring the safety of Byers and Mike. The initial impressions that Harmon and the Agent Wallace form of them are that they are uninterested, annoying, and lazy. They keep up with everything the boys are doing, but their favorite thing to do is to watch golf on television. But Harmon and Wallace step up to help when the soldiers are sent by the Colonel Sullivan, and they come into the house looking for Eleven and start shooting at random. Even though Harmon loses his life, he manages to get the boys out of the house and into Argyle's car in time to make a narrow escape. Harmon is unable to stop the loss of blood, so he gives the boys instructions on how to locate Eleven before he passes away. Moving on, Benny Hammond and Chrissy Cunningham. Benny Hammond was killed off for no apparent reason in the very first episode of Stranger Things. Fans ought to have even taken this as a warning that no one is immune to danger. Even though fans didn't know much about Benny's character other than the fact that he is owned by the local diner, he made a big impression when he took Elle into his kitchen when she was looking for food and kept her safe. This was one of the most memorable moments for fans of the show. Elle was murdered by a person who worked at Hawkins' laboratory and was searching for him at the time. Benny was killed by a gunshot before he could even figure out what was going on before he was killed. Worse yet, the Department of Energy attempted to make it appear as though he had committed suicide and then left his body in the restaurant for several hours before calling the authorities. Chrissy Cunningham is one of the first few characters introduced in Season 4, Volume 1. She was also the first person Vecna killed, which helped set the tone and the mystery of Season 4. Chrissy goes to find Eddie because she's been having bad dreams about Vecna chasing her. She wants to buy drugs to stop the dreams, while Eddie looks for what Chrissy needs in Eddie's apartment. Vecna calls Chrissy and kills her in Eddie's trailer while Eddie watches helplessly. Chrissy's death was sad because fans didn't get to know her character well enough. It's even sadder that it moves Eddie's story forward because everyone in town thinks he killed Chrissy in a satanic ritual. Next up, Alexi and Barbara Holland. Alexi joined the cast of Stranger Things in the 3rd season when the whole Russian plot was added to the show's world. He was a Russian scientist and one of the main people working underground at Starcourt Mall to try and open the gate to the Upside Down. But Joyce and Hopper quickly kidnap him and hold him hostage until he tells them what the Russians are up to in Hawkins. Over the course of the season, he turns turns out to be a funny character who loves Slurpees and mostly talks through Murray because he doesn't speak English. He ends up feeling bad about what he has to do, but he is killed at the 4th of July carnival when he's finally having fun. Even though his death didn't have a big impact on the story, many fans are saddened by it and thought it was pointless. Barb was one of the first major people the Demogorgon killed in season 1. Her death still bothers fans and her best friend Nancy Wheeler. She dies while sitting alone in Steve Harrington's pool in the middle of the night waiting for Nancy to finish talking to Steve so they can go home. She has no idea that the Demogorgon is still following her through the woods. It grabs her quickly and pulls her into the Upside Down to eat. No one knew what killed Barb yet, which made it scary. It's also sad because she died while trying to be a good friend. Even though Nancy told her to leave and go home, Nancy had to deal with the grief and guilt for the next 4 seasons because of her death. We can't leave out the Hawking Lab children and Bob Newby. The massacred Hawking Lab in season 4 is one of the most graphic and scary deaths in Stranger Things. Almost every child in the lab has broken limbs or eyes that are bleeding because of Vecna. In fact, the scene was so scary that the episode of Stranger Things that showed the attack had a warning. Some of the kids at the facility did pick on Al, but many fans agree that they didn't deserve to die in such a horrible way. This is especially true for the younger patients who didn't even talk to Al or Vecna, but seeing bloody dead children in a building that looks like a school is what makes this death so tragic because it feels the most real. Stranger Things made it a tradition in season 2 to kill off fan-favorite new characters, starting with Bob in the first episode. Bob quickly got caught up in the Upside Down because he was seeing Joyce. When they got stuck in the lab with the demo dogs running around and no power, Bob tries to be the hero because he's the only one who knows how to reboot the system, thanks to his love of technology. Bob is almost home, but when he stops to catch his breath, a demo dog jumps on him right in front of Joyce. Bob's death was one of the first ones that really upset and saddened Stranger Things fans because it was completely unavoidable. Bob would have been safe if he had kept running. Instead, Bob died and became the superhero he always wanted to be. But fans and Joyce were left with a huge hole in their heart. Finally, Max Mayfield and Eddie Munson. The death of Max is the hardest to rank because the end of season 4 has a lot of questions about what happened to her. After avoiding Vecna for the whole season, he finally gets his hands on her and starts breaking her limbs while he holds her in the air. Max briefly wakes up in Lucas's arms, but it turns out that her heart stopped for a whole minute before Al brought her back from her coma-like state. Max could still get better, but she did die for a whole minute, which made fans cry like babies. Not only is her death sad because she lived through so much, but she died just as she was starting to talk about her nightmares to heal her inner wounds. It is also heartbreaking to see Lucas hold her body in his arms and scream for help. Eddie Munson's death is the saddest of the all fan favorite characters who have been introduced in Stranger Things only to die in the same season. Eddie is no longer going to be a coward and run away from danger, so he stays in the Upside Down and fights the Demobats by himself to buy Steve, Nancy, and Robin more time. Eddie fights them off for a while, but in the end, the Bats win and attack him until he bleeds to death. He dies of his injuries from being a demon in Dustin's arms. Before he dies, he tells Dustin to take charge and keep an eye out for the Hellfire Club. Eddie could have lived if he had followed Dustin to safety, just like Bob, but in the end, 1986 was his year and he died a hero. This made his death by far the most important one in the series. Even though Hawkins still thinks he was behind the murders, many fans feel like he died for nothing. Which death hurt you the most? Comment below. That's all for today, guys. Hope you liked the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Till next time, cheers.